The Heavy is the best class in the game to use on MVM, huh? And it's not even close. Alright, you probably want some more than that. Well, Man vs. Machine and its community host lots of debate to answer the question of which class belongs in the MVM top picks. In other core modes, the ranks of each class are a lot more straightforward because of the whole generalist thing they use in competitive formats, and also since people would much rather be playing things like Soldier flying around killing people with a shovel and then saying some random ominous things in the chat than doing this. But in MVM, there are much more aspects which makes the answer to this debate way more complex. Some classes work better depending on a particular wave, and each class is less about how good they actually are, and more about how well they can fulfill a particular role in an MVM team. These roles are sort of what built the MVM soft meta. This soft meta consists of using a support class like Engineer or Medic, but usually Engineer, to use their tools to keep their team in the fight, a credit collecting class like Scout or Spy, since those upgrades aren't buying themselves, a class that can clear robot hordes or Uber medics easily like Sniper with explosive headshots or Demoman with sticky bombs, and then the 3 other slots on your team can pretty much be used for whatever you want. But in most games with players that are very high leveled in MVM, especially in higher difficulty waves, they'll just fill them with heavies. So why is that? Well, when you look at the essentials of doing well in the mode, which is basically doing a whole ton of damage so that the robots turn into scrap metal, and then look at the basics of what makes Heavy the class that he is in the first place, it becomes a lot simpler. The Heavy is considered to be a sort of tanking class with 4 very particular upsides, such as his high health pool, a minigun that can deal tons of output in close or mid-range, weapons which are quite versatile and cover a lot of different damaging and utility bases, and he has very good synergies with each of the other classes because of how much simpler he is compared to them. Starting off with the first point, Heavy at 300 HP has the highest base health pool out of any class in the game that allows him to absorb a ton of damage output from hordes of bots and still come out on top. When you think of the other classes listed in the meta like Engineer or Sniper, they are all lower health backline classes that can't really tank hits much, which is why they sort of need a frontliner class that can shift that aggression towards them. Sure, Scout can do that too, but Scout players are usually more inclined to go around the map collecting credits for their team rather than staying only where the robots spawn to maintain aggression, which is exactly what a Heavy does. Not only that, but with Heavy regularly equipped with a large hitbox, if I do say so myself, he also is one of 2 things in the game that can body block robots quite well, the other being an AI that has to be placed down. Body blocking is a key strategy in waves with robots like giant scouts, for example, especially if more than one spawns, because it allows a Heavy who is positioned correctly to completely wall off enemies from moving past them, which is a very useful utility. The thing about Heavy when you use him in regular games is at the expense of his large health pool, he is a large target, which usually makes him not very sustainable unless there is some sort of teammate healing you. In MVM, however, there are plenty more things that can heal you, ranging from dispensers that most high-tier engineers will place next to you, the healing rate from popular weapons such as the Mad Milk, or the sandwich items from other Heavies on your team, which, as mentioned before, there will probably be other Heavies on your team. Or you can even heal yourself with health on kill upgrades on his miniguns that, when paired with other healing sources, can make Heavy out-heal damage that he's tanking, something you definitely don't see in TF2's other regular modes. In MVM, a team has to work more closely together, which is where these healing sources come from. That again takes care of one of the 2 huge downsides with the Heavy. Damage output as well is very important. When it comes to classes in the game that can deal significant amounts of damage, it usually is dimmed down to about 4 options. There are some pretty decent picks to choose from, but Heavy is usually the best. Pyro, as an example, is pretty well known for supporting teams with using the Flog, air blasting enemies to reset the bomb, or using the weapon that should not be named, but is also known for blowing up whenever an actual sufficient number of enemies are on your screen. Heavy with his tankiness, though, does not explode like a Pyro, making him a better class to patrol the robot spawns, and also knockback rage, even though it's a pretty terrible upgrade for the most part. If you're in a position where you absolutely need to reset the bomb, you could use it, and it pretty much is just as efficient as a Pyro's air blast. Soldier actually is not that great in MVM. Even though he's quite mobile and does good splash damage, his upgrades are really expensive. making him not really that usable until later rounds, and even then his utility is kind of overshadowed by other classes, Heavy being one of them, who literally only needs firing speed and health on kill on his minigun to actually be efficient, which makes Heavy just so much easier to run and maintain in earlier waves. Demoman is actually a pretty good pick, but does have a lot of downtime with him having to reload and wait for his stickies to be armed, while Heavy doesn't have to do any of that and can maintain his damage output just as long as he knows where the ammo is. His weapons as well, despite being really basic, do cover a lot of bases for the class. You want more accuracy or just a better well-rounded gun? Use the Tomislav. You need extra damage or resistances? Use the Brass Beast. Are there giant scouts and your scout just isn't milking them? Use the Natasha. And if you want to pretty much watch all your ammo vanish in an instant rather than using it to shoot people, use the Huolong Heater. But otherwise, just don't use this gun. It's in need of some buffs. You can use as sandwiches or bananas as well to use it as a mobile health pack, or if your engineer places the dispenser in some corner where even he doesn't know where it is. Even the Doloco's bar can help add more extra resistance to a Heavy. Then his melees consist of the Gru. Good when teleporters are being camped, or the Fist of Steel, another very good option to add even more resistances to Heavy when it's necessary. Like, are you seeing why he's so good now? Hold on though, there is one thing about Heavy which hasn't been mentioned yet, which is that Heavy actually he does have a weakness. I know. How could he possibly have a weakness if he's the best class in the game? But you see, Valve did this thing, I guess because they were realizing Heavy's absolute power, where tanks, which are a pretty significant kind of giant robot, were added with a 75% damage resistance to miniguns, which makes Heavy in this mode one of the weakest classes to pick when countering a tank. Now, if there's only one or two tanks in a particular wave and your team strategizes against it accordingly, then using a bunch of heavies is probably still viable, but any other wave with a bunch of tanks is probably a decent enough reason to switch to one of the other power classes like Pyro or Demoman, who in comparison are considered as tank busters. Anyways though, enough of that, back to what makes Heavy good. That was just one thing that needed a bit of clarification to better note down Heavy's 4th strength, which is how well he synergizes with all of the other classes. Heavy functions well with Scout, since they are literally complete opposites. You know, one can collect money a lot easier and milk enemies, while the other can focus on damaging them and using the milk to out-heal any incoming damage. Soldier is able to combine his damage with a Heavy to take out giants very quickly, and his banners are also great options to further increase a Heavy's efficiency. Pyro covers his one and only main weakness in MVM, which is taking on tanks. Demoman is good for similar reasons and also can clear out Uber medics, so it's easier for Heavies to take out the giant they were healing. Heavy and Heavy is the equivalent of those two huge arms, like the more Heavies the better. Engineer's Dispenser and Teleporter are absolutely integral to get the most out of the class since they help counter his sustain and him being really slow. So shout out to those engineers. Medic uses a shield to cover a Heavy whenever his resistances aren't enough, and Heavy is just a great target for Medic to heal to recharge his projectile shield. Then Sniper is pretty much just Demoman but Australian, and Spy is Scout but French. Otherwise though, that pretty much sums up what makes Heavy such a good class in MVM, to the point where I would even say he's the best class if the rest of your team is running something like 5 Spies. But all of the other points, such as his large health pool, damage output, versatile weapons, and class synergies, is what overall makes Heavy the best class in Men vs. Machine. Thank you very much for watching this video and for all the recent support in all of my TF2 content. If you agree or disagree with any of the things that I said in this video, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And also let me know if I should do more MVM related content. And again, I wouldn't be able to bring out content like this if it wasn't for all of you. So again, thank you. Also, if you want to stay in the loop of when I upload my videos and what I'm up to, be sure to check out the new social media platforms I'm on in the description below. But other than that, thank you very much for watching once again. Be sure to do all that funny YouTube stuff, and I will see you all in the next silly little video I make. Bye-bye.